Hello, Uta Hagen here of Trans Widow Uta Hagen YouTube channel with a little lavender that I picked out of my garden. I'll show you the seed pod, which I don't know if the birds are interested in, but the lavender is still quite fragrant. I'm going to make them envelope size and send them to my good friend, Mrs. Chang, who is taking care of her elderly mother, and I know she loves to smell the lavender. So, yes, my YouTube channel is Trans Widow Uta Hagen, and my YouTube blog is Trans Widow. No, Uta Hagen Grass Widow.wordpress.com. I'm still dealing with, the pre-op time before my left eye gets the cataract procedure, and it's a little distracting, but I really wanted to bring you a picture of our lovely New Hampshire State Legislator, Jonah Orion Wheeler. Don't you love the middle name? And of course, he got some very negative, almost threatening feedback for his vote, which I reported in a recent video. He voted to ban surgeries for minors for what I call sex trait modifications. And apparently this bill doesn't include the wrong sex hormones. So that might still be allowed, and that's probably designed so that it would pass. The Republicans apparently have a majority in both houses in the state legislature, and then they have Governor Sununu, who is a kind of known as a moderate Republican, and I'm sort of wondering if he'll do the same thing as Governor DeWine in Ohio, which is to veto it. Now, in Ohio, they overrode the veto. So these are the states that have laws banning what is euphemistically called affirmative care, and it's quite a growing list. This is in support of normal child development, in support of children's psychiatric health. So here we go. Arkansas, Florida, Oklahoma, Georgia, South Dakota, Tennessee, Texas, Idaho, Utah, West Virginia, Indiana, I think I said Iowa already, Kentucky, Louisiana, Mississippi, Missouri, Montana, Nebraska, and North Carolina. So it looks like it's possible that New Hampshire will join them, and that is despite having two men who ideate themselves as females in that very same legislature, and that is Jerry Cannon and Lisa Bunker, who were both elected in 2018. Now, I also found a name, James Rosener, who might have been earlier in the New Hampshire legislature, who is a woman who thinks that she's a man. And I'm really, really proud of Jonah Wheeler. And this is the title of a news follow-up on all of this. About the harassment that he got. And he said that he expected it. He's a Democrat who voted along with 13 others who typically vote with the Democrats. Or maybe it was a total of 12 Democrats and 2 independents who voted for this ban on these irreversible surgeries for the under 18s in New Hampshire. This is the title. I think this is called NH Journal. Anger threats from fellow Dems as Representative Wheeler backs bipartisan ban on gender surgery for minors. Now, a fellow Republican said, "I am always impressed when Representative Wheeler speaks at the well. His support on this bill was huge. I'm disappointed in his colleagues who followed him out to the anteroom to berate him for standing up for common sense. We had 21 Democrats vote for the amendment and 12 vote for the bill as amended. I thank them all for their support. Plus, there were two independents. Conservative Representative Michael Constable added, going against the orthodoxy of your own party and pop culture will have consequences. Respect to you, sir, for speaking on principles no matter the consequence. The ugly incident, let's see. Now, he had something before where he really stood up for what's right. Multiple sources confirmed that there was a lunchtime bull session among the Democratic caucus, and it didn't work. Instead, there were so many threats made against Wheeler by his fellow Democrats that the State House security stepped in. According to those sources, members of the House sergeants at arms overheard comments that concerned them so much that they reached out to the State House security unit of the state police. Now, what I want to know, and it will never be reported, did Lisa Bunker and Jerry Cannon make those threats? Because this is what we trans widows find, is that the men who ideate a female persona are a hair trigger away from the threats. Wheeler confirmed that for the rest of the day he was moved from his usual seat in the middle of his caucus to the back row of Section 3. So this young man of color is basically advised to move to the back of the bus. Very interesting. The clerk of the House, Paul Smith, pulled me aside to make sure I was okay, and we decided changing seats would be a good thing to do. His speech is in, I'll just read it quickly. What Wheeler said to explain his vote is, the question before us is whether or not children under the age of 18 should be able to get these surgeries. And despite being a liberal who believes in rights, I don't think that this is the case. These are irreversible surgeries. This is not a question of whether you're with the community. It is a question of whether or not you believe children should be able to get these irreversible surgeries. I'll take all the heat that comes from this. And he got it too. He was besieged by outraged progressives in the House anteroom. Multiple sources confirmed to NH Journal that the reaction was so intense that several House Republicans went out there out of concern for him. They were having an old-fashioned struggle session, said one House member. And I know in my town, up in the Hudson Valley, there is a black leader who was treated to exactly the same thing because he spoke about women's rights to privacy in the ladies' room. So struggle sessions, just to define them, were public spectacles in communist China where those viewed as having betrayed the cause were accused and humiliated by people close to them. It was the bravest thing I've seen from a Democrat. It was powerful stuff. Conservative Representative Tom Mannion from Pelham said of Wheeler's speech and his vote, when Jonah went into the anteroom, a bunch of Democrats were aggressively confronting him, saying he owed an apology to the transgender members. This is so ridiculous. So ridiculous. This level of taking every little thing as an insult is just so unbelievable. And I wrote a letter to him, which I will send to his post office box. You can look up Jonah Wheeler, Peterborough, New Hampshire, to get his post office box. I think it's like post office box 3 or something. It must be a small town. Wheeler says, I was told in the anteroom that I didn't belong. So talk about, what they claim to be victims of, and then they do it to him. I responded by saying that I was elected by my constituents and I have just as much a right to be here as anyone else. I did say this is legislating, and I have to give credit where credit is due. It was Representative Michael O'Brien from Nashua who came in and calmed everyone down. The mood did not improve. They had this another struggle session during lunch. So I wrote him a letter. Dear Jonah Orion Wheeler, and I'm going to send it. I think I might have to leave it unsigned. I'm a little bit afraid. I would love it if he'd read it, but I'm a little bit afraid that then those people will figure out how to dox me or something. The Jerry Cannon and Lisa Bunker, the Neddies of the New Hampshire Legislature. This is my words to Jonah Wheeler. I thank you from the bottom of my heart for standing with children. I am a retired kindergarten/early grade science teacher and a developmental specialist. Due to the harassment of the left, I have to leave this letter unsigned in case someone would come after me. I don't have the strength anymore at age 67. I taught 4 children in pre-K or kindergarten who had a short period of cross-sex ideation. That is what it should be called instead of gender dysphoria. All of them desisted and forgot about it after I focused on rewarding cooperative behavior, peer partnerships, and enjoyment in learning. One girl thanked me after her 6-week stint wanting to be called Stephen instead of Sarah. She had a twin sister and an older half-brother. She wanted, in my opinion, to differentiate herself from her more talkative twin and to be more like her half-brother who got to go do fun weekends with his father, who was not her father. At first, she was quite headstrong about it. I told her that I needed her to count how many other children are in the class and how am I going to remember the new name. She started standing on the toilet seat to try urinating standing up like her brother. Very dangerous. She made a few messes. I told her I just don't have the time to clean this all up because we're going to make Play-Doh. She figured out Play-Doh is better than stand-up urinating. I was very patient. We wrote notes to her parents about her day. She got to choose special friends to play with. All of this is normal routine teacher guidance. I also had to listen closely about what might be going on at home because sometimes a child who is being molested gets the idea it wouldn't happen if they were the opposite sex. And please take note, you can look up Erin Brewer, E-R-I-N, Brewer like making beer, YouTube channel. That was her story. She was abused as a child by some neighbor and thought it would be better if she was a boy. She grew out of it and is a mother, and so on and so on. Yes, so I would listen closely because sometimes a child who is being molested gets the idea it wouldn't happen if they were the opposite sex. The trans movement denies this, and a child may die one day because a teacher affirmed this child who is actually being abused. I write in memory of Nix Mary Brown, who was killed by her mother's boyfriend in Brooklyn during my time teaching there. I am also the ex-wife of a man who ideates a female persona. He's the father of our 2 sons. He claims to be their mother and coerced them to start calling me by my first name and to say they have 2 moms. We had a very traditional marriage to start, and I had no idea he was going out cross-dressing in gay bars. The therapist he worked with encouraged this deceit. Our sons were distraught at ages 4 and 7 when he did the surgeries, and we divorced. I and my sons lived below the poverty line for 2 years until I got my teaching license. He refused to pay child support. I had to go for enforcement. He accused me of monstering him and claimed he was the more appropriate parent to have custody. I said no. This is not uncommon for trans widows. As I do here, we ex-wives do not concede our female pronouns to our ex-husbands. Many of us, and I have data on 56 trans widows, were coerced to do kink in bed. I said no after this was suggested by my husband's therapist. She called me traditional, and I said, I'll take it. You've experienced the same coercion. I salute you, honor you, and admire you, Mr. Wheeler. Every word I've said here is true, level, honest, and from the heart. I'll sign my middle name, and I'm going to actually make up a middle name. All of this is real, happened, and is happening to so many women. The children should not be indoctrinated into becoming mini narcissists. Children need to become resilient, thoughtful, and community-oriented. As always, Miss Susie. Now let's see. I think I find my cursor. It's hard for me to find it. Be well. Do your things outside. Smell the lavender. And thank you. We have quite a few new subscribers, and thank you also to you loyal stalwarts.